Governor Andy Beshear signed and vetoed multiple bills that were sent to his desk this week, and some were also returned unsigned. WYMT's Amelia Lee has the latest on Senate Bill 63 and what the lack of a signature means for that bill.
Senate Bill 63 allows vehicles like ATVs and side-by-sides on state roadways, but only if they're registered, insured, and meet certain safety regulations and criteria. Governor Andy Beshear did not sign Senate Bill 63, sending it back to the legislature, but the bill still passes without his explicit approval. Senator Brandon Storm, the bill's sponsor, says it's an opt-in law.
This isn't being forced on anyone throughout the Commonwealth. If local governments, local municipalities, local cities don't want to do this, then they don't necessarily have to agree to allow this to take place.
Storm says this bill does not apply to farm or agricultural vehicles, focusing on people who are riding on the trail systems.
Go from one to the next, and you never really have to load up one of these street legal special purpose vehicles. You can drive from one trail system, go get gas, go get food, stay in a hotel, go to the next one the next day, and make it a family fun adventure.
Eric Hubbard with Backroads of Appalachia says the bill's passing will bring more people to eastern Kentucky and in turn grow the local economy.
What I saw so far was a business owner ecstatic because this is going to be in direct line for them to start getting more traffic and legally do it and have people come to their restaurant versus doing it illegal.
He says more than 30 states have a similar law in place.
This makes us more of a competitive platform to compete against our neighboring states. But most importantly, we got the best terrain already here.
Saying he is excited to see his friends get their tags. Senator Storm says lawmakers from all throughout the Commonwealth, including central, eastern, and southern areas, are in support of Senate Bill 63.
Amelia, thanks. The bill will go into effect in July. Hubbard says that's when people can get their vehicle inspected and with proof of insurance can get the proper tags. Another bill, this time one that did not make it past the governor's desk. Governor Andy Beshear vetoed House Bill 684, which would have in part expanded who could vote in person before official early voting began and would have allowed local board of elections to give schools advance notice if their facilities were needed as voting centers. Secretary of State Michael Adams said the governor's veto has undermined the state's bipartisan effort.
This is not controversial stuff. It's all just common sense stuff. That's why the Democrats voted for this too.
In response to the governor's decision, Secretary Adams took to the social media platform X to express his disapproval. The Post described the governor's veto as, quote, murdered bipartisan election reform. In a statement to WYMT sister station, Governor Beshear said calling a constitutional veto by a governor murder is immature and insensitive to those who have lost family and friends to murder. As the state legislature continues, we now turn our attention to how national politics could have a substantial impact here at home. Last week, nearly half of the Department of Education's 4,000 employees learned they would lose their jobs, several hundred of them from the Office of Civil Rights. They are in charge of investigating allegations of discrimination based on race, gender, disability, and religion against school districts and colleges. And every year they get thousands of complaints nationwide. Now they will have to investigate with fewer staff. Kelsey Soto takes a closer look at how national decisions are having a local impact.
We're going to be returning education very simply back to the states where it belongs.
President Donald Trump has vowed to do away with the Department of Education. Last week, he signed an executive order to restructure. Mass layoffs were announced, eliminating 50% of their workforce, like Brittany Coleman, who worked at the Office of Civil Rights.
Concern after concern that, with what we're seeing by just shoveling this work off to other regional offices that are already short-staffed anyway throughout OCR, that it means that students aren't going to get the help that they need in a timely manner, and that it can cause lasting effects because we're not able to intervene in time.
Brianna Burns and Shannon Booker are both mothers to students in Rowan County. The two have open and pending investigations with OCR based out of Philly. Well, they did. 7 of the 12 regional offices were closed last week, including the Philadelphia location, which served Kentucky. Parents fear these cases may fall through the cracks.
We're aware that the school was contacted, that the allegations were made, that the cases were open. Information was requested from them, documentation of what they had done, and then to now be met with the doors were closed. I feel a little bit nervous again.
OCR is tasked with investigating claims of discrimination based on race, sex, religion, and disability. If the office finds evidence of discrimination, they can force a school district or college to change policies and direct them to provide services to students. Sometimes OCR even monitors schools to make sure they comply.
You have to have an effective mechanism in play. If you want to uphold the rights of students, of people in general, there has to be an effective mechanism in play and somebody willing to uphold it.
In Rihanna's case, one of the claims had already reached a voluntary resolution. Some of those reporting requirements list deadlines later this month. But with no oversight, she worries those changes won't come.
And it scares me to think that nobody cares, that so many kids are left unprotected right now.
The NAACP and the National Education Association have filed a lawsuit seeking a court order to stop the dismantling of the DOE. Agency officials have said the work of the Office of Civil Rights will continue. The two women we talked to say neither one have been contacted by another regional representative to give them an update on their case.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Chris Bailey back with you again. What an absolutely gorgeous evening it is across the area. Let's take a little trip up and down the Mountain Parkway, where we've had plenty of sunshine this afternoon. This is very close to the Red River Gorge, the Natural Bridge State Resort Park, where things are starting to take off now with those colors that are showing up, with those spring colors, the buds, the blooms, not only there, but across our entire region. And tomorrow, we're going to really see the temperatures jump. So, yeah, we'll see more of those blooms taking shape. Mid-60s into the afternoon. We'll start things out into the upper 30s. Radar picture, dry. Northern Kentucky, just a stray sprinkle or a shower. High pressure is out here. That's a really cold high pressure that is across the Great Lakes into the eastern part of the country. Warm air ahead of a big low pressure pinwheeling into the west coast. That's going to cross the country and gives us the threat for some severe weather, especially late Sunday into Sunday night. We're back with that in just a few minutes.
All right, Chris, thanks. One person was flown to Lexington after a stabbing in Laurel County. Officers with the London Police Department say they were called to Cedar Lane Apartments at approximately 5:50 this morning. The call was for a stabbing after a domestic violence situation. When officers arrived, they found a man at the front of the complex with a stab wound. He was flown to UK Hospital for treatment. No word on his condition. In Pulaski County, the community is mourning the sudden loss of a former high school football player. 19-year-old Drew Inabnet died last night after a farming accident at a farm in Nancy. The Pulaski County Deputy Coroner says Inabnet somehow fell off a tractor and hit his head. He was pronounced dead at the hospital in Somerset. An autopsy has been scheduled.